Hey guys, welcome back. So this video has been highly requested. I'm going to be showing you guys how to make my French macaroons. So many of you guys don't know, but I have started a little bakery business ever since quarantine started. And I have been selling mainly macaroons, but I've also been selling cakes and cupcakes, and a lot of people have just been asking me if I could share the recipe or just how I make them in general, so that's what I'm gonna do today. So I put up a little poll on my Instagram, and I think the flavor that won was strawberry cheesecake, so that's what I'm gonna be showing you guys today. But the main batter, you can, branch out to other flavors if you would like, and just like do your own twist on it. Okay, so when you are making French macaroons, what you are looking for to know you succeeded are the little feet. So what the feet are the little ridges on the bottom. So you want them to go perfectly straight around. They shouldn't be lopsided, and there shouldn't be too many cracks in the middle. It should be pretty even, like the little crust on the outside. But if you really succeeded, then there should be a line going all the way across like the rim of it, like right above the feet. And the top should be pretty smooth, and all of them should just be pretty symmetrical. So if you have that, then you know you have succeeded in making French macaroons. There are actually only 5 ingredients that you will need to make the standard French macaroon recipes. Today you'll need some powdered sugar, almond flour, sugar, egg whites, and water. So those are the only ingredients you will need today for making the Italian method. So there are 2 methods to make when you can make the French macaroons. You can either do the French method or the Italian. The Italian method is what we're gonna be making today. So the only difference really is that the Italian meringue is more stable, and I just feel like it works better every single time. It is a little bit more complicated, but I will walk you through it all, and it should not be a problem. So I'm just gonna go a little bit more into the almond flour for a second. So the almond flour that I have is very super fine. I'll actually show you where I get it from. So I used to get it from the Bob's Red Mill brand. I'll put a picture up right here, but lately I've actually discovered the Costco one is even better. It just comes in a bigger package. It's more inexpensive. You can get it more in bulk, and I find that it just works better. It's blanched, it's super fine. The only thing is that with these French macaroons, it is very crucial that everything is sifted to its finest capability. It should be very fine. It's just one of those rules. Also, a big thing is macaroons do tend to be on the sweeter side of most cookies or desserts, and my family tends to not like desserts as sweet, so they've asked me in the past, can you substitute it for less sugar? I guess if you were to do some recipe testing, you could, but to stick with our standard recipe, and if you do not want to mess up and you want it to be more foolproof, then I would not substitute any of the sugar or any of the ingredients. Just make everything very exact. Otherwise, like I said, they will not work. And when I say they will not work, I personally don't have any pictures of the ones I failed making, because I have failed many times before I've succeeded, by the way. So do not think that this I tried to make these hundreds of times when I was younger, like way younger. I started making these probably when I was like 10. And I've been going at it. So I've been testing out different ways to do it, but like one way is that they could be cracked at the top. They could not rise at all. They could be lopsided. There are many things that can go wrong, and we're looking for the beautiful, crafted, perfect, rises like a souffle type of macaroon. So I'm just gonna stop talking and we're gonna go right into it now. Okay, if I'm out of frame a little bit, it's just because I really want to show you guys the bowl. But the first thing we will do is we're going to combine the powdered sugar and the almond flour into one bowl. So then just take a whisk, and we're just going to whisk it all up until it is all one homogenous mixture. And don't worry if there are still bumps or clumps of the almond flour or the powdered sugar. We're going to sift it next. Okay, so now in a large bowl, I just have a sieve, and we're just gonna slowly do it in different, like maybe 2 to 3 sections, increments, whatever. And I'm just gonna take my whisk and just whisk it in. So after you whisk it, you are usually left with some crumbs, and these little crumbs are just the more coarse bits of the almond flour usually. And you do not want to use this because this can contaminate your batter and make it way too lumpy. So you can just throw this out, or you can snack on it. I'm a complete idiot. I totally forgot to film a whole part of the video, so just enjoy this clip that I filmed like later on, and just pretend this never happened. Just keep following along. We're gonna take the bowl half of the egg whites and just put it right in. Now we're gonna take a rubber spatula and we're gonna mix it up until it becomes a paste. So this, you don't have to be gentle. You can really just work it in until the whole thing becomes a nice paste. And trust me, your arm will be extremely tired after this. Mine is always 100% tired. So, you know, if you do this, you don't need to do a workout after. So I'm just gonna keep doing this until it is done, and I'll show you what it's supposed to look like. Okay, so here's the final result. If you take a look at it, it kind of almost looks like cookie dough. It's like a paste, it's like a dough. Now we're just gonna set this bowl aside. We're not gonna use it for a while, so we're just gonna put it in a safe place. Okay, so now we can set this aside and we are gonna start working on the meringue. Okay, so for the meringue, we are gonna start off with the sugar mixture. So, like I said, we are going to be doing a Italian meringue today. So what an Italian meringue is, it is the same thing as most meringues. It's just whipped up egg whites, but instead of just pouring like straight sugar, like I guess they call it raw sugar, just straight granulated sugar into the egg mixture while it's beating like the French meringue, we are going to be doing a sugar syrup. So that's what makes it different. So I'm just gonna pour the sugar into a saucepan, and then we are going to use about 35 grams of water. So you do not have to be too precise with the water, but if this is your first time making it, please do it exact. Like I said, as you get like good with it, you can tell it just needs to be like really wet sand, because it's all going to evaporate when we boil it on the stove. So let's go over there. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I do a horrible job explaining this part, so I'm just gonna break it down a little bit so it's less confusing. So in this clip, I'm holding a ramekin and it's filled with egg whites. So in the very beginning of the video, we measured out 100 grams of egg whites and we split it into two different containers of 50 grams and 50 grams. So the one I'm holding is the second amount of 50 grams of egg whites that we are gonna be using for the meringue. And we already used the first 50 grams of the egg whites in the beginning for the paste. So basically, I take the egg whites and I put it into a stand mixer fitted with a whisk attachment. And I'm just gonna leave it alone, leave it on standby. Next, we're gonna go to the sugar mixture, which is on the stove. It is on the stove at high heat and I have a thermometer in it so I can check the temperature. So once the temperature of the sugar goes up to 235 degrees, we're gonna crank the mixer with the egg whites up to high speed, and that's gonna be whipping up and going up to soft peaks. When it reaches soft peaks, you will notice the temperature will probably be around 238 degrees. 238 degrees is the proper temperature we want for the sugar. The reason why I say to turn on the mixer when it reaches 235 is because the amount of time it takes for the egg whites to reach soft peaks is also the same amount of time it takes for the sugar to go up to 238 degrees. So now we're just gonna start on the sugar mixture. So I just put it on the stove. It's on high heat right now, so I just have my thermometer, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the thermometer straight in. So a lot of people do like to use a spatula to mix up their sugar. I don't like to speed up anything that could harm it or make it crystallize faster, so I literally just put the water in. I take my thermometer and I actually give it a little bit of a stir just to make sure that the sugar and everything is all combined together. Also, some people do like to take the extra step and brush down the sides. I find that if you're not careful and you're too splashy with everything and the sugar gets up on the walls too much, then you do need to brush it down with water. So you take a pastry brush and you can brush down the sides, and all that does is it just makes sure that there's no crystallization. But I'm pretty careful with it, and usually nothing ever happens, so I just put it straight in as is. Usually it does take around 5 minutes to reach what it should be. Okay, so the sugar mixture is now at 235 and I'm gonna crank up the heat. Okay, so I am now switching to a voiceover because the mixer is way too loud. But what you saw in the last clip was that my sugar reached 235 degrees Fahrenheit. So I cranked up the mixer to high speed until the eggs reached soft peaks. But then I slowly poured the hot liquid sugar into the egg whites until all the sugar was poured in. But I did lower the speed to low so that the sugar wouldn't splash all over the sides. But once it was all poured in, I did change it back to high speed and let the egg whites whip again. It's really important that you do not stop your mixer too many times, otherwise you could risk deflating your meringue. I did stop it once just to show you guys that this is way too liquidy, so you do not want this, but just really keep your eye on it and make sure that you're looking for stiffed peaks. When you pull it out, it should look just like this. It should be stiff enough that it won't fall, but it does bend a little bit. So in the past, when I used to do my French method, I would whip it a lot more because of the method, but with the Italian method, you actually don't need to whip it as much. It should just be like firm peaks instead of stiff. So now I'm just gonna move this out of the way and we're gonna continue. So when working with the meringue, it's very important that you don't let it sit out too long. Otherwise, the meringue will slowly deflate. So now with the meringue, I'm just gonna put it straight into that paste we made. So we're only gonna use a tiny little bit, so we're just gonna take a little bit and we're just gonna stop right. That's it. Because as you can see, this paste is super thick, and when we're mixing it with a really light, airy meringue, and when you're mixing it with a paste and trying to combine it, it does deflate it. So that's why you just want to use a tiny little bit until this paste becomes lighter and more creamy, and then it can add itself into the rest of the meringue a lot better. Okay, so this step is also very crucial. You do want to actually put some force into it and make sure that paste is super creamy, all of it. You don't want any of the hard, thick paste left, because that can actually cause your whole batter to not be smooth, because the rest of this meringue that we add in, I'm just gonna add the rest. The rest of this meringue that we add in will not help get rid of those crumbs. It's really just the first mix that does that. So you really want to combine it well. I'm gonna say this really, really quick. People love to use the frame molten lava. I hate that. Because yes, you can picture what molten lava is, but no one actually knows what molten lava feels like. And it drives me insane when people say that. I have a way better way of describing it. I usually like to do this technique where I just do it back and forth. And it should take about 20 to 30 seconds to mold itself back together. So I'm just kind of counting in my head. Okay, so perfect. When it does not fully do that, that's how you know it's ready to add food coloring. So since these are the strawberry cheesecake ones, my strawberry cheesecake ones are usually like a reddish but swirled into the normal white batter. So I'm just gonna take some red gel food coloring and I'm just gonna kind of marble it in like this. Doesn't really matter, but I just like it to be spread out a little more, so that I just take the spatula and I just slightly, I don't mix it all the way in. I just mix and mix, so this looks perfect to me. Now we're just gonna fill it up in a piping bag, and I fitted it with a 803 Ateco tip. It's a round tip. Show you guys really close. There. So just to make it a lot easier for myself, I'm just gonna fit it into a cup. And then we're just gonna pour the batter straight into it. Alrighty, so it is piping time. This part could actually make or break your macaroons. So important things you want to remember are you want to keep your piping bag perfectly straight, and you want to just use firm pressure and pipe one solid glob of the macaroon. You don't want to do any swirls or anything too fancy. Just squeeze, and then with the flick of your wrist, just kind of flick it around. This will ensure that your piping is even and that your macaroon will rise up like a souffle and it won't spread out or anything, just to make sure it's very even. Also, I'm piping this on a silicone mat with a template, but you can easily just do it with parchment paper. That works just as fine, and if you want, you can always just trace circles on the back. Both ways work just as well. You don't need to have a fancy mat or anything. Okay, so I actually forgot to record with the first tray that I did, but a very important step is you want to tap your macaroons on all sides up and down, and what this does is that it makes sure there are no air bubbles trapped in the macaroon so that it won't crack or do anything weird. It will just be one smooth macaroon. So now I finished piping the whole tray, and I'm just going to put it aside somewhere in a dry place just to let it sit for about 10 minutes. Okay, so I lost the audio to this clip, but basically what I say is that Italian method macaroons don't need to set out at all. They can just be popped right in the oven, but I forgot to preheat it, so I'm just going to do that and then pop them in one tray at a time. So for those of you who don't know, the only reason why they have to sit out in the first place is to form a crust. But Italian method macaroons naturally have a crust right after you pipe them anyways, so that's why they don't have to rest. Usually I do let them rest just as a safeguard because it doesn't hurt to let it rest more.
and then we're just going to preheat it at 350 and bake it for 14 minutes.
Okay, so now all of them are ready to be filled. We have our cream cheese frosting. I made some strawberry compote a little bit earlier. I'll link the recipe down below. And then I have some crushed graham crackers in another bowl. Okay, so I paired up some of the macaroons already. I'll show you guys what they look like. Not filled. They came out perfect. Okay, so to assemble these macaroons, the first thing I do is I take the cream cheese frosting and I do a really, really nice rim around the entire macaroon. And then I take the strawberry compote and I do a nice little dollop right in the middle. That was a little too much, but it's okay. And you put the top on really, really nicely. And then I usually either dip the whole thing or just dip the side of it in the graham cracker crumbly mixture. And there we have it, the strawberry cheesecake macaroon.
Of course, I forgot to film an outro for this video, but I really hope you guys liked it. And if you did like it and you want to see more of these baking with Jens, please like this video and leave a comment down below of what I can make next time. And if you guys make these macaroons, please tag me and use the hashtag baking with Jen. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!